Charles County. I'm Delegate Edith Patterson, and I'm honored to serve as chair of the delegation and also to serve as moderator for this evening's event. I've served in the Maryland General Assembly for 2 terms. This is my 7th year, and I'm currently a member of the Ways and Means Committee in the House of Delegates and subcommittee chair for racing and gaming. Tonight, you'll get a chance to hear from your delegation members and to also hear not all legislation. We had over 2,000 pieces of legislation proposed and over 700 plus bills to either be signed by the governor or that will be passed without his signature. Tonight, you will hear from each member the Senate as well as the House of Delegates, piece of legislation that they have either sponsored or co-sponsored or voted on, they key pertinent to the citizens of Charles County. We're extremely pleased with the funding allocation for local programs and initiatives. And most of all, we're really hopeful that the information will be useful and shed meaningful insights into the work performed by your Maryland General Assembly for the 2021 legislation. For right now, I'd like to just provide an overview of some of the key elements of what transpired. This was unlike last year. We actually served for 2021 session. We actually served the full 90 days. It was different in the House and the Senate. In the Senate, they were in one chamber, although they had dividers, and maybe Senator Ellis or Jackson will talk about that. In the House, we were in 3 separate areas. And luckily, we were all in different areas. Delegates Davis and Wilson were in the main chamber. I was in the annex, which is an office building, and Delegate Proctor was in the gallery, which is also in the chamber. So we had different perspectives in terms of the environment. Needless to say, we were still able to get the work done, and a lot of work it was. This is a global pandemic. And with that, like everywhere else, it created a lot of fiscal uncertainty. The most notable was with in our offices, and we'll introduce our staff later on, but I know that in Maryland, there were 40,000 Marylanders that were sort of stuck in the unemployment debacle. The governor worked really hard to assist the Marylanders. And in fact, near the end, there were some compensation offered. But if you can imagine, you really can't imagine the number of calls that we got from constituents and their concerns. We approved a 2022 fiscal budget that provided tax relief to individuals and to businesses that were impacted by the pandemic. And we wanted to make sure that people who had suffered substantial losses were compensated and somehow were not swallowed up in what happened during the pandemic. The federal government came through for the state of Maryland with over $5 billion of federal funds, and that helped the Marylanders and helped the state in terms of stimulus bills, CARE Act, the Consolidated Appropriations Act, and the American Rescue Plan Act. Several acts, again, that the governor worked us through or helped the Marylanders stay afloat. In terms of Charles County, there were, when you look at the budget for 2022, the amount of direct aid to the county was somewhat stabilized, maybe a little less, but it was $230,000, which represents a 1.4 million per capita income for individuals. One of our responsibilities in Annapolis is to promote, is to hear and present local legislation, that is to say Charles County legislation. And this year, there were 4 major pieces of legislation that we heard from the county commissioners that they wanted as it relates to enabling legislation and authorizing legislation. The first one had to do with Charles allowing or affording legislation that would allow Charles County to have a an alcohol beverage class 4 license. That is to say, wineries and brewers could sell their products in their stores. A major concern in the county was to be like other jurisdictions where there are regulations and fees as relates to housing, rental units, and to make sure that the county would have some input and assurance that people were living in safe dwellings. And that was another Charles County bill that a member of the delegation carried and was passed by both houses, that's Senate as well as the House. And that bill, the residential fees and regulation, is comparable to what's being done in Indian Head as well as the town of La Plata. And the other bill, as relates to Charles County and Charles County citizens, has to do with the community service and pre-trial release program. Possibly Delegate Davis will share more on that, since this is something she advocated for years. And so with planning and working with groups, that bill also was presented and passed both chambers. And you will note that in order for bills to become law, they have to pass both the House and the Senate. There was a bill that was co-sponsored by Senator Ellis and myself, and it has to do with the alterations to Charles County Board of Education. This is a bill that he sponsored, co-sponsored sponsored on the House side, and it has to do with increasing the numbers of members on the Board of Education to represent each commissioner district. So instead of 7, there will now be 9 members, including a member of a student voting member. But again, Senator Ellis will share more information about that. And my committee is a subcommittee on gaming and racing. And we're very pleased, I'm very pleased, as well as the entire delegation, to note that the riverboat, which is in King George County, but it is in the Potomac, hence it is in Charles County, will pursue one of the gaming licenses. This is a major feat for us. It's one of the first in the nation of that caliber to be offered, and that will increase opportunities for economic development, also for tourism and so many others. And so those quickly are just a few of the major bills as relates to Charles County and Charles County government. So now I'm going to, you're in for really a great evening, because the other members of the delegation will share their thoughts, information about their committee or whatever it is. So the first leader I'm going to call on is Senator Arthur Ellis, District 28.
Thank you, Delegate Patterson. Hello, everyone. This is Arthur Ellis. I was elected in 2018, sworn in January of 2019 to the Senate of Maryland. And in 2020, I was promoted to Assistant Deputy Majority Leader in the Senate. I serve on the Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee. In that committee, of course, in the title, we handle all the education bills going through Annapolis and the Senate, health, a lot of the health bills, environmental bills, also veterans bills. The bills have to do with veterans, local government agencies. We handle those bills. Of course, the elections law, we handle all the changes in elections procedures in Maryland. And procurement laws, how goods and services are purchased in the state of Maryland. That goes through the Education, Health, Environmental Affairs Committee. And liquor laws go through committee. My committee, we handle probably 60% of the bills that go through Annapolis. They work us very hard. We're very focused, but I just really have the opportunity to have a big impact for Charles County and District 28. So I really like the committee I'm on. In 2021, this year, I was selected as the chair of Senate Select Committee number 8, which is a committee of the senators for Southern Maryland, Charles, Calvert, and St. Mary's County. And I serve with our newest senator, Senator Jackson, District 27, and you'll hear from him after me. And so it's a pleasure to have Senator Jackson in the Senate. We work closely with our delegation, our delegates, to really get things done for Charles County. As Senate Assistant Deputy Majority Leader, that's considered a floor leadership position. So when all these bills come on the floor of the Senate, we have the debate. In the Senate, we have robust debate. We have Republicans, Democrats. Of course, the Republicans try to weaken a lot of our bills, like the Police Accountability Act and the Police Reform Act. And as such, I was called on to be one of the floor leaders to really defend that bill, particularly HB 670, which is the HB 670, Maryland Police Accountability Act. And Republicans were trying to destroy it, but I was part of the team that really defended that bill. And of course, championed by our own delegate, Deborah Davis. She'll go in detail with that bill. But the thing is, a little bit of thing about Annapolis. For a bill, an idea to become law, it has to pass through both bodies. Both bodies have to approve that law. So we have to work together as a team with delegates and senators to get things done. So I'm just very happy about what we're able to do in Annapolis as a team this year. I want to go specifically into some of the monies we brought back for Charles County government, for Charles County nonprofits. And let me get my list here to be accurate with you. We brought back $3,955,000 this year alone in grant money through the capital budget for Charles County. The first one, first of all, if you want to look this up yourself, it's House Bill 590. So each year, a body takes the lead on the budget. This year it was the House. So we in the Senate worked with the bill the House sent over. So this year is House Bill 590. So if you look at House Bill 590, which is a capital budget, on page 10, sublitem E, is local parks and playground infrastructure. Charles County received $3 million for local parks and playground infrastructure to really improve our parks and playgrounds in Charles County. So that's $3 million in the capital budget and bond bills. And on page 36 is the Maryland Veterans Memorial Museum. We got $150,000 for the Maryland Veterans Memorial Museum to provide a grant to the Board of Directors of the museum for acquisition, plan, design, construction, repair, and renovation of the museum. And if you go down to page 67, we were able to, delegates and the senators, got $250,000 for the Addie E. Thomas Community Center, which provided a grant to the Board of Trustees of the Pleasant Grove Missionary Baptist Church for the acquisition, design, plan, construction, repair, renovation of the Addie E. Thomas Community Center, which is in Western Charles County. On page 67, also of the budget bill, Willing Helper Society is in the budget bill this year. They received $30,000 to fix up their facility there in La Plata. Willing Helper has been around over 100 years, serving Black residents when Black people couldn't get insurance, couldn't get any help from the government. This organization was set up self-help, still going on, still helping the community. And this is the first grant they were able to get from the state of Maryland. So we're very proud of that. On page 67 also is the Hospice of Charles County. They received a grant of $200,000 to do some of their reconstruction. On page 82 of the grant bill, there is the American Legion Rancho Post 17, which is in Promotion. Okay, I'm receiving tremendous feedback. I think Ms. Spencer, could you mute yourself, please? Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so page 82 of the bond bill is the American Legion Randolph Field Post 170. Been around, Post 170, been around over 70 years. And they received the first grant, majority African-American post, over 7 years, been around for, the grant is $150,000 for repairs and alterations. And on page 82 also is in Lions Camp Merrick, the grant for them, they received $75,000. Lions Camp Merrick to renovate the pool. And this is an ongoing grant. We've gotten them money every year so far. This grant is for $75,000 to fix up their pool. They serve a lot of underprivileged children, deaf, diabetic kids, camps every year, 4-H, just tremendous camp in Nanjemoy. And last but not least, on page 82 also, we were able to get $100,000 in grant money for the Waldorf Urban Park and Amphitheater. Waldorf proper does not have a park, does not have a park in Waldorf proper. And so working with Commissioner President Collins, he was able to put in this request, got the board to approve this request from the local commissioners. And so we basically got this $100,000 in the state capital budget bond bill money to plan that Waldorf Urban Park and Amphitheater, which is right around O'Donnell Lake around by the mall in Waldorf. It's going to be a beautiful facility, exercise facility, amphitheater. So we're really proud of the bond bills that we're able to get. So I have 2 more minutes introduction. Let me do a quick slide through some of the bills that I was a primary sponsor, primary author of that passed. 269 of property tax exemption for disabled veterans. SB 308, Promise Scholarship. Adults who want to go back to community college now are eligible to get the Promise Scholarship. SB 664, financial aid for high school kids. Every year, high school students leave $2.9 billion on the table in Pell Grants alone because they do not, a lot of them do not fill out the application. This bill gets a lot of help to these kids in school to fill out that financial aid form, the federal financial aid form. Great bill, that passed. Senate Bill 749, Delegate Patterson mentioned that, which reforms the way the school board members are elected in Charles County. 2 members from each commissioner district plus 1 at large. And so that was a very great bill. That bill passed unanimously in the Senate. All 47 senators voted for it. That includes the Republicans. It's really amazing accomplishment for Charles County. And last, but the greatest, and I'm so happy about, is the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. SB 0081 passed unanimously also in the Senate by a 47-0 vote. And of course, this bill was co-sponsored in the House by Delegate Deborah Davis, and she got it through the House also. We got $25 million in the budget to over the next 5 years, I believe, to work on our Southern Maryland Rapid Transit bill. And so that's a quick run through of my assignment tonight. And I stand ready to answer questions if asked of me. Thank you so much. And I just want to also say really quick, let's keep our deputies that were injured in Waldorf a couple of days ago in our prayers, and let's pray for their rapid recovery and pray for their families. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator Ellis, and thank you for hearing. You will have a chance, all of you, to add more commentary as we move through. Next, we'll have Senator Michael Jackson representing District 27.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Charles County. Let me say that what an honor it is to, one, serve with this team, dynamic team, as well as to serve in the Senate. Just briefly about me, this was my 7th session in Annapolis. I got elected in 2014 to represent, which was 27B, which is parts of Prince George's County and Coward County. Served 6 years in the House of Delegates. Very fortunate to have spent those 6 years in the budget committee, so I have a little bit of budget background, but also was able to ascend to was very fortunate to ascend to the vice chairman of budget. The unfortunate health circumstances for Senator Mike Miller gave me an opportunity or set forth an opportunity for me to be appointed. And I want to thank Charles County for supporting me in that effort. So now I have a portion of Prince George's, Charles, and Coward County. So I'll run through quickly. Last note on that, I was sworn in on election on the opening day of session. So many of the pieces of legislation I have been working on in the House, were some were left in the House, and then I had to try to pick them up on the Senate side. First, I'd like to say that your delegation, as well as the other members of the General Assembly, we're very fortunate to have served the full 90 days. But during that time, one of the first duties we took up was to ensure that we offered relief to families. And some of that relief was in the tune of $500 million to support mass transit, $480 million to reverse COVID learning loss and public education, $297 million to bridge the digital divide, which I think became a surprise to many folks, just believing that the rural areas had those challenges, but those challenges are everywhere. $140 million to provide immediate cash assistance to Marylanders in need, $80 million to make HVAC and ventilation improvements across the state, particularly in our schools. And that's going to be something we're going to be keeping an eye on as schools reopen. And lastly, $54 million to bolster the social services safety net. I'll just run quickly through the bills that I either co-sponsor or sponsor. One of the first bills that we took up, I served as the joint chair of Pension Oversight Committee on Pensions. And prior to my leaving to go to the Senate, and Delegate Proctor picked it up on the House side, was we ensured that retroactively back to March of 2020, when the governor declared a state of emergency regarding the pandemic, that COVID would now be a part of the death benefit packages for every employee in the state of Maryland. And hopefully families, that's a minimal number, and hopefully we won't have to deal with that. But we wanted to make sure that we took care of our families. Secondly, the coming session, you'll see us working on a workers' compensation component to that. For 7 years, just about every member on this panel, and for the last 2 years, Senator Ellis worked on this. We finally got legislation passed for all community colleges to have collective bargaining. That is a fight that we have been dealing with for quite a long time. It is vital that our employees have every opportunity to have a decent work environment and to be able to bargain collectively. There's legislation that was passed this year dealing with teleworking to ensure that every public institution, higher education public institution, as well as state and local governments are to come up with a plan, a teleworking plan that's going to be run out of the Department of Commerce. I think we have learned a lot over the last year, almost a year and a half now, how vital that is to ensure that business can still be conducted during a pandemic. Cybersecurity, I served as joint chair on the Joint Cyber Committee. There are numerous pieces of legislation that were introduced regarding cybersecurity. Obviously, here we are right in the midst of that as well, dealing with our gas crisis with the pipeline. There's a piece of legislation that did not pass. Some of the legislation that your delegation put forth did not get probably the proper amount of deliberation because one, we didn't know we were going to be able to make the 90 days due to COVID, and two, there were some very robust pieces of legislation, police reform, COVID, education, and others. But that cybersecurity training, local governments have that. Not every local government across the state has that. You will see that bill reintroduced this year coming up. Next Generation 911, we have instilled, I sat on that committee and continue to sit on that committee. there are numerous pieces of legislation dealing with the 911 system. As advanced as technology is, sometimes we kind of move on to the next thing and we forget about the sustainability of systems. So we've done a lot of work over the last 3 years. We will continue moving forward on additional legislation going this year. Every jurisdiction in the state has the capacity to text 911 as well as send pictures to their emergency services, emergency communication sites, which is vital, something we couldn't do up until a year ago. We have numerous service animal and Humane Society bills that were passed. There's a bill that we've been trying to get through Annapolis over the last couple of years, public safety article that will tie into police reform and other criminal justice reforms that codifies what we've done in Annapolis so that there's no question when these challenges come into court. There's also a piece of legislation that passed this year that requires every jurisdiction, and this is again about transparency, every jurisdiction will now have to release the settlement documentation on any incidents that occur dealing with police incidents. Lastly, I'll wrap it up. 311, there's a study for 311 information system calls for citizens so that our 911 systems are pretty active in every jurisdiction. Doesn't matter whether you're rural or suburban or urban. So we have a 311 study going. And then lastly, there's a Southern Maryland transportation bill that was put forth this year. Keep your eye on this, Senate Bill 259. You will see this entire delegation working very vigorously on this, as well as every other matter that pertains to transportation and infrastructure for Southern Maryland and Charles County in particular. Thank you very much. I will definitely stand for questions later, and I'm honored to be a part of this team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. You had 2 more minutes, but I appreciate that again. Thank you so much from the Senate side. And now we'll go over to our delegates for Charles County, beginning up Delegate Deborah Davis.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. And thank you all for being here. And I'd like to say thanks to Delegate Patterson, our House Delegation Chair, for hosting. As she mentioned, my name is Delegate Deborah Davis from District 28. This is my 3rd year in the legislature. I sit on the House Judiciary Committee, the Public Safety Subcommittee, the Criminal Law Subcommittee, and just last session, I was over the interim, I was selected by the Speaker of the House to serve on the Speaker's Police Reform and Accountability Work Group. I also chair the Criminal Justice Subcommittee of the Legislative Black Caucus. So as my colleagues have mentioned, we had a very successful legislative session. 2021 was great for Charles County. We all serve on different committees and have varied interests. So, I really hope that we're able to give you just a snapshot of what happened this session. As Delegate Patterson mentioned, there were over 2,000 bills. We worked as a team to bring our share and more of state dollars to our Charles County residents to support organizations with boots on the ground who've been working for the community for many years. And that was our priority for funding this year. As many of you know, I served 8 years as Charles County Commissioner prior to coming to the legislature. And that experience has served me well and served the constituents well in Charles County, I believe, because I have the boots on the ground experience with what is priority for Charles County residents. And that leads me to transportation. As Senator Ellis mentioned earlier, we were able to bring $25 million to the county for transportation. It's a long story, but we were able to work with the Transportation Caucus in the legislature to amend the bill that Senator Ellis and I co-sponsored to spread the $25 million out over 5 years to bring much needed and overdue transportation dollars to the state, from the state, so that Charles County can continue to move forward in planning for transportation solutions, which we hope will be light rail. So a couple of the bills that I handled or I sponsored specifically, I think it's funny, I always tell the story about how we all bragged or talked about eating oodles or noodles when we were in college, but that is only the tip of the iceberg when you deal with hunger and food insecurities in college campuses. My former chief of staff worked on this bill, and we were able to bring it across the finish line this year. And it's a grant program, a matching grant program that will match dollars that college campuses use to address food insecurities on college campuses. So I'm really excited about that. We worked with lots of campuses, and we heard lots of testimony about how food banks are needed on college campuses and stuff like that. Pretrial services, hats off to Commissioner President Collins and Judge West, who are leading the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. One of the first things I wanted to do when I when I got to the legislature was to bring pretrial services to Charles County. So I'm proud to announce that, you know, Charles County justice system is moving into the 21st century, which would allow judges options for releasing citizens who've only been charged, not been found guilty, alternative supervision. So that's really exciting. Most of my time was spent working with police reform. I was honored to chair the Criminal Justice Subcommittee of the Legislative Black Caucus. I'm really proud of that group of lawyer legislators who got together and decided that we had to be ahead of this. So we spent a lot of time over the interim drafting legislation, working with organizations from across the state, over 60 organizations across the state, to be ready when the session started for police reform legislation. So we went into the 2021 legislative session knowing that we were responsible for taking the lead and setting a standard for the nation to follow. And we did. We set 3 priorities relating to transparency and accountability. That we had to narrow it down, and we knew we had to narrow it down because it was a big feat to take on. And so they were specifically the repeal of the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights. Funny thing is that Maryland led the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights in the 1970s. We started it, and so many other states followed, and hopefully they'll follow us again and they'll get rid of it. So we actually repealed the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, which generally just gave officers more rights than citizens had. It did other things, but that's one of the general things that it did. The second thing was we knew that it was important to enact a statewide use of force standard so that citizens throughout the state have the same expectations in their interactions with police. And we removed the reasonable use of force standard. And that's just a standard that pretty much has not worked with holding officers accountable. And we replaced it with, we established a clear standard that force should only be used when necessary and proportionate. And that is one of the more strict standards in the entire country. And we're excited about that. And lastly, the third priority was expanding the Maryland Public Information Act. Everyone always says that all police aren't bad, and we know that, but we need help fleshing out the bad actors. And to hold them accountable, making most police officers, what we did was we made most police officer discipline records public, and we removed their automatic expungement of records, if you can believe that. We were successful in each of these priorities and so much more. Maryland enacted historic police accountability measures. And I'll just name a few. We banned the use of chokeholds. We limit the use of no-knock warrants. We require additional training and de-escalation. We made it a law that officers had to intervene. So there's a duty to intervene if you see another officer doing it. There are criminal penalties for violations of use of force. We established mandatory use of body-worn cameras by the year 2025 for police forces. Independent investigations of police-involved conduct resulting in death or serious bodily injury. So they will be independently investigated. They won't be investigated by local police departments. A right to record officers. Believe it or not, some people don't know, or some officers don't know, that unless you're impeding an investigation, you can record an officer in his duties. And also, and I don't want to leave out the fact that in support of officers, we mandated additional training. We mandated, excuse me, college tuition reimbursement. We gave them whistleblower protections, counseling, and this was really important for minority officers. They demanded uniform discipline across the state. There was lots of testimony that the disciplinary process did not work for all officers equally. I want to note that all of this was vetoed by our governor, but because we had a supermajority, we were able to override those vetoes before we left session. So all of this has passed. And so I was involved in this for over a year, and it was really tough. We heard testimony from so many citizens that had been negatively impacted. We heard from police officers, especially minority police officers who have been negatively impacted, all asking for change. And we faced great opposition on the floor of the House and the Senate. But I'm proud to say that in the House, our own C.T. Wilson passionately led the debate. And that was a tough thing because, yes, it was really tough. And Marylanders owe him a debt of gratitude, and he made us very proud. And I'm glad he gets to hear this for the first time. Lastly, I'm proud to say that we worked as a team, and that is so very important. We worked as a team, not a perfect team, but a team nonetheless. And we managed to keep the best interests of all of our residents at heart. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to next session.
Well, thank you very much, Delegate Davis. And I appreciate my colleagues. You all are really adhering to our 10-minute time frame. Remember, if you have questions, there is a way that you will send them to the Chief of Staff, Crystal, so that they can be vetted later on. All right, now we will hear from Delegate Susie Proctor, representing District 27A. Delegate Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. As Delegate Patterson said, I'm Susie Proctor with District 27A, representing Prince George's and Charles County. I've been in Annapolis for 6 years now, and it has been my honor to serve with the Charles County delegation, who has the distinction of being the hardest working and most successful delegation in Annapolis. That's quite a honor for us. I want to talk about the blueprint for Maryland's future. As an educator, this has been very exciting, very promising. For 2 years, a number of delegates, educators, citizens worked to develop what was known as the Kirwan Commission, and has now falls under the blueprint for Maryland's future. Basically, our goal with this bill is to make sure that regardless of which zip code you live in, all students get a quality education. Also brought back more money for education, $54.9 billion, more than we've ever brought back for Maryland's public education. This will cover also community schools in areas where we have families that are in trouble, as they put it. So a community school will include not only the teachers, but psychologists and health people and social workers so that you can take care and help the entire family. They brought in a title that I wasn't familiar with called Struggling Students, because as we know, there are students that they're not special ed, but yet they need special help. So there's a whole category cut out for what they have termed as struggling students. Hopefully this money is going to get our teachers some raises, which are badly needed. There will be teacher training paid for with this money. And we are very excited about what they are referring to as the the retired teacher mentor program. And hopefully I will also be a part of that. I used to serve for the first 3 years on judiciary like Deborah Davis is now, but I'm currently on appropriations. And on appropriations, I'm serving as the vice chair of public safety of the Public Safety Committee and the chair of the Pension Oversight Committee. There were several bills, as Senator Jackson mentioned. We had to make sure that if there were employees who died as a result of COVID on the job, that we would have the structure there for them to receive additional insurance, if you will. We also had a bill that didn't pass, but will probably be back this year. Our retirement investment is managed by a group of financial advisors. And they are bringing in a little better than 7% a year on this money. And we have some members of the House that want all of the money put in the SP 500, S&P 500. That didn't pass because many of us saw it as too risky, but that's something you can expect to see again next year, because we do have a very assertive group pushing that. I want to also mention what was referred to as the speaker's bills. One was the HBCU bill. As most of you know, we have been in court over maybe about 14 years. Maryland was found guilty of not giving the HBCUs the money they should have gotten, but they just kept appealing it, so we didn't get any money. So with the bill HB1 that Speaker Jones put in, we were able to get it passed. We were able to override it after it was vetoed. And our colleges have $577 million. There's also a clause in there. Our other universities had a habit, if you will, of duplicating any classes that we had that were very popular. And of course, that was very detrimental to our programs. So under this bill, there's also a commission developed so that this kind of duplication will not be allowed. Another bill of the speakers was, the basic state song. There have been efforts for over 10 years to repeal this song. It has many hate symbols and words. There are many statements there, words there that are favorable still to the Confederacy. So after 10 years, we were able to get that bill repealed. The Art Commission has been assigned to basically hold competitions for people who are willing to write a song that they think would be appropriate. But this particular commission will decide. And until we get the new song, we have no state song. That's the way this will play out at this time. Another bill was diversity corporate boards. We have corporate boards who have no diversity, and yet they get state funding. So with this bill, your corporate board has to look like your community, and it has to be documented in order for you to receive state funding. I'd like to mention another bill, the Inmate Restoration Act of 21. This allows anyone in prison who is within 12 months of being released to come to, right now, it's set up so they can come to our HBCUs to get an education or some type of training or certificate so that they will have a skill when they leave. Other universities or colleges can also participate if they want to establish a MOU with the state. And the last one that I will mention is the Juvenile Restoration Act. We passed a bill that said minors cannot be sentenced to life in prison without parole. Of course, that bill was vetoed, but we were able to override that. I think we were able to do many things to help our community, and I look forward to January, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate Proctor. Thank you so much. It seems like our chat right now is disabled, but let me just put a pin in your delivery regarding the HBCU bill. As you indicated, it's $57.7 million per year. And there are 4 HBCUs, Morgan State, for those of you who are connected with Morgan State, annually for the first year will receive $24 million. That's a supplement, not in addition, it's in addition to what they normally would also get from the state. Bowie State, $16.8 million, Eastern Shore, $9.7 million, and Coppin State, $9 million. And that's really contingent based upon the enrollment. So we're really very pleased to have voted for HBCU or House Bill 1. Okay, bringing up the rear is Delegate C.T. Wilson. Delegate Wilson, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for putting this on. And colleagues, thank you very much for being here. My name is Delegate C.T. Wilson. I've been in the House for a little while. I can't remember how many years, but it's been a few. On economic matters, I am chair of the Veterans Caucus. I'm getting ready to step down from that. And I'm also the chair of the Business Regulation Subcommittee. I want to say first how much it was a pleasure to watch our delegation gel this year. And I was marveling at the way our delegates in the House performed. Delegate Davis was just dogged in her fight for police reform and the use of force, to the point where she was going to stop that bill from moving forward. And I met with leadership because I'm I think the senior member here. So in meeting with leadership many times, it was funny to watch them slowly submit to her demands. until this bill was crafted in a way that she could be proud of and get behind. And I'm very proud of the work that she did behind the scenes. She was not really flashy, but apparently she was raising hell every day until she got what she wanted. And what she wanted was great for all of us as a community. I was very proud of that. Delegate Patterson did something I thought would never be done in the history of Maryland, and that's bring some kind of gambling resources to Charles County. I mean, for years, we've been fighting for this since before any of us were here. And it was just not even a thing. When the other counties were going to eat it up, and if they felt that somehow that even though Colonial Beach could somehow be in competition with these other casinos. So doing that was just a marvel. And, I couldn't be prouder to serve because, on the House floor, like you said, we were all kind of spread out, but everybody was causing their own form of mayhem. And we managed to hold our own. And I think we should be very proud of, what we provided. Try to be brief. I'm looking at my timer, so I won't go over. But one of the things I focused on this year was drafting the Essential Workers Bill, protecting individuals during any catastrophic health emergency, including this COVID emergency. And it seemed almost redundant because we're talking about protecting people and they're, making sure they didn't get fired if they couldn't come to work, making sure that they had a safe place to work, and their guidance to employers, that the Department of Labor was able to let these employers know just what is considered safe employment. And we also were able to secure some federal monies for these essential workers. Now, to be honest with you, since we have changed this mask mandate, this has become very important. Because for the individuals who don't want to wear a mask, a lot of them also don't want to get vaccinated. And so they're going to be running around, they're going to be going to our Targets, to our Safeways, to these areas and putting our people in danger, our essential workers. So I am pressing very hard on the Department of Labor to make sure that they follow through, because our goal was to make it that these individuals who can't say no to coming to work because financially they need it, that they're protected by if they're elderly. And remember, the vaccine is great, but it's not 100%. And if you see 10 people a day with no mask on, you're okay. They're seeing 1,500 and 2,000 people a day. So we need to make sure that we step in and protect them, that we make sure that at least in retail establishments, they need to continue to wear a mask until we get this herd immunity, because I don't want to put these people at risk. And my thing is, if you don't want to wear a mask, don't go in. Don't put these people at risk, and don't raise hell when you get there, because these individuals have a lot to do. Also, we focused real hard on unemployment. We clearly saw the holes in our unemployment. The way we handled our unemployment this year, we made sure we had more money with staffing. We focused very hard. We had depleted our fund. We're supposed to have $1.5 billion in our trust fund. We had nothing. We now have a $1 billion we're able to negotiate through the feds. We also have a very difficult year because our employers went from column A to column F on our table. So instead of paying roughly $25 per year for unemployment, they're paying up to $1,400 per person per unemployment. And that was going to continue pretty much infinitum, but we were able to negotiate to where it's just for one more year. So for all you employers there, I know you're going to get the surprise. I've already gotten mine where you thought you were paying a very nominal amount. It ends up being a lot more. I wish we could do something. We've set it up to where that, you can make payment plans, you can defer, and next year it should go back to normal. So trying to protect our employers is always important, is protecting our employees. A bill that I put in this year that really had a hard time getting out of Delegate Patterson's committee, hopefully next year, was basically redrafting our history books. My daughter came to me, she is in 7th grade, and she said, Dad, if people learn as much about African-American culture as they did the Holocaust, they might have a different view of who we are. Because what happens is I taught my daughter about Rosewood. I taught her about the Black Wall Street. I taught her about the struggles that she should have learned in school. The things that make us, that these are not, right now, since we can't erase history, we shouldn't try to hide it. And we should be proud of our accomplishments and what we've endured as a people. African-Americans literally built this country. But when you read the textbooks, that you do not see. They basically jump from slavery to Abraham Lincoln, to Martin Luther King, to Obama, which robs our community and our culture of a great deal. And I refuse to let another generation go by not knowing just how great their forefathers were. The corporate board diversity, that was another committee bill I had in my committee. I won't hammer on that because Delegate Proctor did a great job, but it's basically for individuals who are receiving $1 million or more a year in either grants, awards, or contracts from this state. Again, you'll hear me say this a lot. Follow your treasure, you'll find your heart. If we believe diversity is important, we should invest in it. And the way we invest in it is require that they either have a diverse board or a diverse mission. So that was something that was a hella pushback on it, but we got that through. It passed. Additionally, a bill that I got through the House, it was a speaker's platform, was procurement transparency. I'm a big fan of generational wealth. I don't believe jobs is how we're going to get out of it. Careers, businesses is how we're going to. And right now, there's a good old boy system that has been dominating our procurement policies in Maryland, meaning that these billions of dollars in school construction, road construction, everything, legal contracts are going to the same people they've been for 45 years. And most of our don't even know how to bid. So making sure that it's transparent, that the contracts are above board, that we know who's been awarded, we know how to challenge properly, and making sure that our MBEs can at least know where the problems are. Because right now we are bereft of problems. Of course, I'm always an advocate for protecting abused children. My bill made it out of the House, died in the Senate again. One of these years, I'm going to get this out of judiciary or JPR before I pass away. And I made sure that on police reform, like I said, I just couldn't be prouder because I put in a bill to make it to where when you're stopped, the first thing a cop has to do is give you their name, their badge number, why you were stopped. That's how you de-escalate a situation. Nobody wants to be stopped. Nobody wants to be arrested. Requiring those simple things to me are very important. Along with, I work very hard with judiciary as far as making sure search warrants are safe, making sure juveniles aren't interrogated unconstitutionally, and making sure, because Charles County leads the state in prosecuting minors for sexting. And that's it is a horrible problem. We have a bill that we should just call the Charles County bill, but literally because we have prosecuted a 15-year-old for sending a naked picture and called it child pornography distribution. That was never the intent of the law. When we wrote that law, there were no cell phones. We need to upgrade that. Those are the things that I have been working on. It has been a pleasure to work with my delegation. And again, guys, we don't always agree, but we agree that we're going to keep fighting together. And I think that what we bring is very unique visions, views, and experiences. Our senator, our 3 delegates, our Prince George's County delegates and senators, I think we bring unique views. And it's not about us always walking around with, our arms over each other's shoulders. It's about getting in that foxhole and fighting like there's no tomorrow. And I saw that this year for the first time. We really went to war. And for a little bitty county, we raised a whole lot of hell. And I couldn't be prouder. Thank you very much.
Really, thank you very, very much. But that is basically really the truth. And it was particularly interesting, I noted, because we were so separated. I know in the Senate, you all were not separated, but for us, we weren't together. And even when we had a Charles County delegation, everything was via Zoom. So the fact maybe we should continue being separate, I'm not sure, I'm just joking. But I really we all appreciate one another because, again, we have different strengths. And true, we believe in compromise. It's interesting to note that sometimes people were concerned, particularly some questionable bills. There were some people who would say, well, we don't want any changes. We want this bill just to be the way it is. That's not how it works. Certainly, some bills maybe, but in most cases, that is not the way it is at all. And it's really important that the public will understand that when we cross-file, it simply means that the bills have to be, in essence, congruent, both in the House as well as in the Senate. And so there were several bills, a couple of bills, right, Senator Ellis, that we had to, we avoided going into committee because you might get swallowed up. So we worked out on them together, Delegate Davis, Delegate Wilson, we all, and Proctor and Jackson, we all worked together because ultimately, if it's a bill that is sponsored by the county, there's a vote. Each delegate and senator will have to indicate either yay or nay. And when your bill is presented either in the House or the Senate, they will ask for the tally. Well, they will say it's a tally. What is the position of your delegation? If you were to waffle and say, well, we majority or 3-2, whatever, then that will not look favorable. So we really worked together to come together, present a very strong piece of legislation. Before I turn it over to my colleagues, there were a couple of bills, as I said before, there were 700 plus that actually got signed. There were bills dealing with energy, and that was in Delegate Wilson's committee. Clean energy, the environment. You would not believe the last few days, I can only say on the House side, I don't know what happened on the Senate side, but there was so much debate about inspection of water and land and sewer and septic tanks. I thought it would be a no-brainer, but there was a lot of pushback, and I don't believe that those bills passed, right, Delegate Wilson? They did not. Again, there were issues regarding the climate and ecological bills. There was a lot of pushback from the members, and so we sort of ran out of time. We didn't talk about voting rights, of the expansion of voting rights. There will be 12 new voting centers across the state. A lot of debate about the voting booths or the boxes, and if there will be cameras, and can you put in more than one? You should really listen to some of the debate. It will be very eye-opening. And before I turn it over, I just want to say one more thing about the HBCUs. With the gaming legislation, I went over very fast, but part of the gaming legislation is that both Morgan State and Bowie State will get $1.5 million each to teach information about wagering. It's a new program, how to help people to become minority and women owners. They will have a course to help facilitate them in sports wagering. So you see some universities, et cetera, made out very well. Even with the HBCU bill, University of Maryland will also have a key role in revenue and funds. Okay. Let me just say, please, in the chat, this tonight's forum or review is sponsored by the Maryland General Assembly. We cannot have anything that is political in origin. And so we just really ask if you'll be very courteous and adhere to that policy in terms of, we're gonna try and get the chat to be enabled. There was a question here. I don't know if Delegate Delegate Proctor or Senator Jackson, if they want to explain how they represent part of Charles County as well as parts of other counties, but that has been a decision that's been going on for years. So I'm going to ask, put Senator Jackson on the spot, and would he answer?
No problem. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And if you can, would you see if you can finagle to enable the chat, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually saw that before the chat was disabled. I saw the question, and the question that was posed was, I guess, to explain my dedication or articulate my dedication to Charles County from representing 3 counties. First of all, redistricting is something that every one of your members here will be taking up very shortly regarding what Charles County's representation looks like going forward. Secondly, look, I am honored to serve in the capacity as the senator of District 27, which encompasses roughly 11% of Charles County. But that percentage means nothing to me. Service is service. The one thing that I love about this team, my good friend, longtime friend, Delegate C.T. Wilson and I, we certainly understand this. And Senator Ellis and I, we sit, he sits right in front of me. Me being the newest of the senators, I'm like all the way in the back. But we are developing a relationship that is centered on the mission of ensuring that Charles County gets all the resources that it's due and then some. That's how I operate. That's how I've always operated. Look, it is an honor, truly an honor for me to serve. I've been very blessed in my life to serve in a number of capacities. I've had the opportunity to serve the entire Prince George's County. I've had an opportunity to serve in some other venues, but rest assured to the maker of that question and anyone else who may have some concerns regarding that, Senator Michael Jackson will be very visible in Charles County. I'm like, well, with all the lights that have been placed on 301, I can't even count them anymore, but I'm right next door to you. But I look forward to serving in any and every capacity. You won't find me shorting Charles County out of the other two counties that I had to serve. So thank you for the question and the opportunity to speak to it.
Well, thank you very much. I knew I wouldn't put you on the spot because we are a team. And when you look at the voting record and the advocacy, it is very clear. Charles County and most of all, we're Southern Maryland.
Absolutely.
There is a chat regarding bond initiatives. This was put forth earlier. And how do they vary? The bond initiatives are put forth through a hearing, pretty much like we're doing now. It's a hearing that's held in October, November, before we invite the public nonprofit to come in and present their initiatives. And then they in turn fill out a form indicating why the objectives, whether or not they have funds, matching funds, resources, et cetera, and how the funds will be used. It's a pretty lengthy process, but it is one that we encourage all citizens who are nonprofits to pursue. Any other delegation would like to offer something?
Delegate Patterson, if I might.
Yes.
So that explanation is spot on. I had the opportunity while in the House last year to be a part of a meeting or a series of meetings that sought to streamline what we call the legislative bond initiatives to make them sort of like we do for bills. And a lot of parameters were taken off of those. And one of the things I'd like to highlight, which was pretty astonishing to me then and remains that way, is that there are no more matching funds when you seek a project or seek funding for a project. Unfortunately, what we've seen over the years in my 7 years in Annapolis, I've seen it. You pretty much, and sitting on appropriations on that time, you pretty much see the same folks coming back and forth. And they're not, and oftentimes they're not coming back for new projects. They're coming back to get additional funding, because as we anticipate things and how tough our work environment has been, can you imagine after COVID, the sustainability of their end of the bargain, becomes more challenging. So our goal is to, in the words of the late Senate President, is to make sure every member of the General Assembly can take home something to their district. So all the citizens of Maryland has a win. So those capital projects are huge. And again, we are all, I'll speak for all of us now, but we are all accessible and available to you. Any initiatives that you may, want to speak to us about, and if we can help in any manner, just please let us know. Please don't hesitate. Earlier the better, by the way. Thank you.
For those awardees, you just heard Senator Ellis announce who they were. We just want to make sure if you have any questions, your award letters are in the email. You'll be getting those. Any way we can help you, we certainly will. And for those who have gotten awards in the past, please know you have to use your funds in a timely manner. Otherwise, they will go back to the state. So we don't want that to happen. If you're a former awardee and you need help with the paperwork, we will certainly help you. Okay. Okay. Is a matching dollar grant for food insecurity available for community colleges?
Yes, it is.
Do they have to go online, Delegate Davis? They really need to look at that piece of legislation and follow. I think the governor signed it, or he probably will sign it.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that it has passed and it has been signed by the governor. I do not recall how I think MHAC is handling it. Maryland Higher Education is handling the distribution.
I'm going to brag on, since we're in Charles County, on the College of Southern Maryland and I think it's a Hawk feeder. I know Janelle Lincoln's was part of that, as well as Karen Smith-Hupp, of course, the president. But I couldn't believe until they pointed it out that there were so many students who were there was a food desk or insecure food on campus, on these campuses. And so it's a wonderful piece of legislation. I believe on the Senate side, it was sponsored by Senator Mary Washington. So if you need any help with that, just reach out to either Delegate Davis's office or my office, and we will get you in the right direction to apply for them. Okay. Regarding the Maryland Airport expansion, we want to make sure that we support local government in terms of local issues as it relates to the environment, as well as for tax credits or whatever else it is they're doing with the Maryland Airport. But it does not come under the purview of a Charles County delegation. It is a local issue.
Delegate Patterson, this is Arthur Ellis.
Yes.
So, jumping really quick. As far as working with, how should I say, the underserved, underrepresented folks in our community in Charles County throughout the state, I just want to say that we were able to pass Senate Bill 155, House Bill 216, which helps our foster care recipients and homeless youth to have tuition tax exemption when they go to college. All of us have worked with a smart young man from Charles County who's now, I think, in his third year in college. He was an unaccompanied homeless youth in Charles County. In high school, no parents or guardian, homeless, very smart. But we worked to get him in one of our local colleges, doing great. But we have young people like that. So this bill, which came through, I was a co-sponsor of it, along with sponsored by Senator Mary Washington in the Senate, make sure that they receive tuition exemption to go to college. And so that's a really tremendous impact on our homeless children. The last number we have from the Charles County Public School, I think last year, there were 800 plus homeless children in the Charles County school system. Over 800 homeless children in the Charles County school system. They're tracked. We know who they are. The school bus picks them up and drop them off in the side of the woods by Walmart and La Plata or whatever. It's amazing. They're out there. We're working on solutions for our homeless, and this is one thing we're working to help them educationally.
Well, thank you very much. I know you serve on the Ending Homelessness subcommittees as well. This question I'm going to ask Delegate Proctor, since you mentioned it, I believe, more about the Retired Teacher Mentor Program. Was that in the blueprint?
That was a result of the blueprint. What
Right.
we found, we had so many teachers. We had so many teachers who said they were having discipline problems, they were having issues getting everything that was required of them completed in a given day. And one of the suggestions, and with Prince George's, we're already talking to their Retired Teachers Association, that they can serve with some of the teachers that are having these difficulties. They can serve as mentors and hopefully improve the whole situation for teachers and students.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Wilson?
I
Yes.
just wanted, because I was reading the chat about, there was a question about our mental health issues. And I just want to say that honestly, and I was actually working with this today. I've been up in Howard County. I represent several individuals and I'm getting, who have autism. They're getting arrested for things like loitering and that nature. And I'm not going to lie, it is a woefully inadequate system that we have in Maryland. So we're still trying to find out, working with local counselors. I called a bunch in the Southern Maryland region. The problem really comes down to funding. Right now, trying to find the funding to ensure that parents, when they have issues with their child or adults have issues, that they can now go, because that actually costs money. I actually have a decent, what I would consider decent insurance, and it's difficult for me to find a counselor. There's a waiting list of 6 to 7 months or weeks for, depending on the counseling that you have. We don't have a central repository through our Department of Health that is actually helpful in these scenarios. And I understand it's something that we've been trying to do. We've been walking through. I'm not the subject matter expert on it. I'm slowly becoming that because of the clients that I've been dealing with. But I don't have an answer yet. I know that the African-American community is, we're doubly plagued with a lack of access and also the stigma assigned to individuals with mental health. And a lot of families can't get over that. A lot of issues that we have with, prior generations asking your children, how are you depressed? Look how great you have it, versus dealing with them on their level. And I believe that not only as a public awareness campaign, we really as a state have to find the funding for it. Because right now, when I talk to counselors, they don't have the money to come. They don't have the money to work. There's not enough of them here. And I'm not trying to just dismiss it. I don't know what to do. It's not my committee. It's health and government operations. So, and again, saying it costs taxpayers less money to treat than incarcerate, without a doubt. Nobody's disagreeing with that. We're saying trying to get people to switch their focus. And remember, there's that middle ground of having to do both and financially cover both. Because believe me, if we handled our mental health crisis, we'd have less drug addiction. We'd have less crime. We'd have less child abuse. We'd probably have less divorce. So there's nobody questioning that mental health is a huge issue. It's trying to wrap my mind around something that I personally am not a subject matter expert on. So I appreciate the question. I wish I had a better answer, but I don't want any question to go ignored because it is something very serious, Ms. Sims. And I just want to make sure I am in the process, and I mean this, of working with this and my minority businesses. I'm gonna have to focus on for the next few years because I haven't seen any movement in either. So thank you for the question.
If I might, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I might add,
Yes.
just piggyback a little bit on Delegate Wilson, and I saw that in the chat as well. There are a couple of things that, COVID has brought about a lot of things that we have masked over for, or we just ignore for so long. We can't ignore those any longer. I'll tell you something that, just came to light in Prince George's County regarding mental health and behavioral health. There have been plans on the books in Prince George's County to build a new public safety training facility for at least a decade. I've been retired for 10 years now. That has been put on hold, and for whatever reasons. So the county executive of Prince George's County took those, at least 20 million of those dollars back. I think, let me back that up. Roughly 17 or 17.5 million dollars, and dedicated that to a behavioral health treatment facility in the county. It's part of the judicial system. And so, but there are ideas. There are many folks that are trying to work on some ideas of how we get to this resolution. Delegate Proctor and I were serving on appropriations at the time when the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention actually picked up the Governor's Office of Children. And they have another name now that has youth and crime prevention, whatever. And it doesn't seem as if that fits because you're talking about the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, and they took over the Governor's Office of Children. Well, the Governor's Office of Children has been fighting exactly what Delegate Wilson talked about. I have a personal story of a colleague of mine in my previous employment where his daughter, his 16 years of age, and she was diagnosed bipolar, and excellent student to that point, and 17 years of age. She was on the cusp of no longer being a child and on the verge of becoming an adult, and the state of Maryland had no way of dealing with that. And so for a number of years, that family went through a heck of a time. And that young lady went through a heck of a time. And so this is something that we are serious about. Ms. Sims, I am certainly, I understand. I actually lost 2 deputy sheriffs in Prince George's County to someone who actually has some behavioral health issues. So that this subject matter is near and dear to our heart, and it's about competing interests, and we just need to commit. The Charles County delegation needs to commit to making this one of our priorities, and you can count me in on that. So.
Thank you so much,
Douglas
Senator
Patterson,
Ellis.
Oh, thank
Senator
you.
Ellis, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Patterson. So I'm looking at my bill request I put in and filing, and before it's a bill, before it's a law, it's what you call a legislative request. So LR 1489, which I submitted, it's titled Mental Health JRE Law. And because of COVID, our staff was not working in the complex. It was very difficult to get these bills. So let me read a quick summary from the bill drafter. He said, I'm concerned that there is no time to do a deep dive into this law as the deadline is fast approaching. Would you consider amending the request to not do it this year? Because it's very complicated, and this is not a lot of our expert areas. And so we're looking at doing a deep dive during the interim. That means now during the, when we're not in session, because there are several laws that were filed in this area that will merge this bill, which is LR 1489, legislative request. So we're in the process of drafting it. It's complicated. There is a Senate Bill 403, which was filed in 2019. And the drafter wanted to model this bill, which really addressed this mental health issue, working with Ms. Sims to really get to the heart of it. So Senate Bill 403, 2019, he wants to use this, the bill drafter, as a model. Also, it deals with outpatient civil commitment, pilot program that started in 2017. So there are a lot of activity in Annapolis that has been done with this before. A lot of activity. We have to really, when we do legislation, it has to fit into what's there already. We just can't put a bill in and it just sits out there by itself. It has to fit into a particular code, law, and what's there, and we have to make sure. So COVID really hampered this effort, limited staff working, and so, we have the framework here, which we're working on with the lawyers in Annapolis, and just will continue work with advocates to really address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ellis. The key word you just said is to work with advocates, because in Ways and Means, under education, there were several bills as relates to increasing the number of behavior counselors, mental health counselors, et cetera, in our schools. And the shifting of a focus from SROs to counselors and mental agencies. That bill did not get voted on. And so it will come back again next year. But we really have to, as Senator Ellis said, and certainly Delegate Wilson, the volume of bills and what is actually pushed forward and focused on is real challenge. And so we certainly support mental health facilities, and we'll work with the county as well to secure funds for our citizens. Okay, we really want to thank you for being in attendance. I don't see anything else in here, but I want to give my colleagues a chance to give wrap up and to thank their staff. But I have one announcement too, and that is the Maryland Department of Labor. There is a reinstatement of work search requirements for unemployed claimants coming soon. That is to say that the requirement to temporarily suspend the idea that you don't, for unemployment insurance, you didn't have to seek. Now you do, as if COVID has changed. And then beginning May 12th, 2021, eligible households will be able to pay for the emergency broadband benefit program. It's temporary, but you do get a discount and a discount on the monthly costs as well. So contact our office if you are interested in learning more about the emergency broadband benefits program, or you can go online. For all the bills that some of us we've discussed, I'm going to encourage you to go online or to request a copy of the 90-day report. It's interesting reading, particularly on a rainy day, but it is a summary of bills and legislation, the budget, et cetera, that passed this past 2021 session. And so as we close out, I'm going to go from what I see up to the right. Delegate Davis, would you like to offer closing comments and to thank your staff?
Yes, thank you so much. I think this was very informative, so I'm excited to have been here. Yes, my chief of staff held it down this last session. Her name is Naisha Young. She's really smart, too smart. She's heading to law school at Texas A&M. So she won't be back next year, but maybe she'll circle back sometime in the future. But thank you everyone for being here, and I appreciate it.
Well, that reminds me, you can also talk about your deadline for the scholarship. All of us have scholarships and intern opportunities. So
we've already completed our selections, so there'll be notices coming up soon.
Okay, great. Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you, Charles County. Looking forward to the next chapter in my in my tenure as your senator. My office is staffed by Ms. Carol Lowe, who I think is on tonight, and Mr. Don Rao. So anything you need from us, let us know. We have no problem meeting you where you are in Charles County. So thank you very much. Let's stay in touch.
Well, thank you. Delegate Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, thank you guys again for letting me be a part of this. It's always a pleasure to do this. I am very grateful that not only are we able to meet, but we're able to do so by Zoom, because I'm looking at the participation, and I hope this is something that we do keep up. It seems like it's a lot easier for individuals to participate instead of meeting somewhere. Joy Jones is my chief of staff, and we're selecting right now. We'll be completing soon for our scholarship program, but I would ask all the constituents, I appreciate the hard questions, and I appreciate pointing out what you guys feel are inadequacies. It is not a challenge for us to be able to answer these questions. Sometimes we don't know the answer, but I do believe these things need to be addressed. For those individuals who weren't able to ask a question or couldn't get in the chat, please send us an email, contact us, because a lot of these things are very important. There's a lot going on. We try to spread ourselves very thinly so we can cover everything. And a lot of times we might miss something. I appreciate the input that you guys have. And I would ask, hopefully this next session comes up, that you guys would be able to have a little more input. And as always, when you send, please don't do the form letter, because I don't really read those. Do a letter. I don't care if it's a one-liner from you giving me the finger. I'd rather have that than a form letter, because I'll pay attention to that. But please, and when you can, leave your phone number, because it's a lot easier for me to call you on my way back from Annapolis than it would be for I'm getting to the point where I'm old enough now to not want to email anymore. So if you could leave your phone number, I would be very grateful to get back with you guys. Thank everybody very much.
Delegate Wilson, I never know what you're going to say, but you're absolutely correct. Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Dr. Patterson and colleagues, for this opportunity to be part of this session. And I just want to thank my staff, my chief of staff, Autumn Grant, just worked so hard, and especially in constituent service. Other staff member, Asia Ayin, she does our communication, keep everyone in touch with what we're doing in Annapolis. Intern now, my district secretary, Amani Beecham, and Charles Regante, who was our 90-day assistant, worked really hard and tireless to really get things done. We really appreciate y'all. It's a team effort in our offices, team effort working with delegates and Senator Jackson, and just a wonderful coordination we have of diversity of backgrounds, diversity of opinions, and out of that comes great product, great results for Charles County. And could I just say that, you know, we have the speaker, the first top leader, African-American in Maryland. She has her speaker agenda, Black agenda. And remember I said earlier, nothing passed just one house and become law. It has to go through two houses. So as a member of the Black senators, we work with the Senate president, very tremendous President Bill Ferguson, to have a committee, a work group on equity and inclusion. That's where everything outside of police reform, that was taken care of by judicial proceedings in the Senate, the lawyers. Everything out of police reform, we took care of. I was on the committee. We worked hard on, so we hear a lot about diversity and equity bills tonight. We had tremendous more. We made sure that happened in the Senate. The Black senators working hard to make sure equity and inclusion happen, from sports betting, which we brought to Charles County. A lot of these issues are on our agenda. We work together with the House, with our first African-American presiding officer, Speaker Jones. We're so proud of her. We work closer to make sure her agenda gets through the Senate. So reach out to me, reach out to us, please. We're here to make Charles County, to make Maryland a much better, cleaner, more equitable, inclusive state. So thank you so much. Reach out to us, and thank you everyone, and be safe.
Ooh, thank you, Senator Ellis. And last but not least, Delegate Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just also want to say thank you to all my colleagues. This has been a very productive evening. My staff member is not here. His name is Joe Kim. He was an intern last year and he was my staff director for 2021. He has been a very responsible, professional chief of staff. He is entering his second year in law school, majoring in political science. So I think we need to all watch out. I just want to say to everybody, if you have an idea for a bill for this coming up session, please let us know. We can always sit down and talk to you about your idea and see how far we can take it. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. And I just want to acknowledge my Chief of Staff, Crystal Medley Green, and I think I have on loan John Tell Green as well, because it takes a village in terms of working together, and Crystal has been a wonderful Chief of Staff. When she came on board, I said to myself, I bet she won't realize how much work we do here, and we do. Certainly with the delegation, but also with the Women's Caucus, with the Veteran Women's Caucus, and so many other things that she's followed me with. And so I really love you and I appreciate you very, very much. She's behind the Zoom camera and she also keeps me on task about ethics, what we can do, what we can't do. And for that, I'm very grateful. And so in closing, my colleagues have done a yeoman outstanding job tonight. It is our first virtual, really town hall. I know in other districts, they have them. Traditionally, this is for us, first time event, but it will hopefully be an annual event. So we thank you. And again, reach out to all of our offices. And as I said before, if you have some time for a rainy day, get a copy of the 90-day report from the Maryland General Assembly. Take care and God bless. Thank you, Crystal.
It's been an honor working with you, Delegate Patterson.